Have you ever wondered why it seems like life's challenges show up right when you're on the verge of finding peace? It's like, just when you think you're a step away from calmness, another obstacle appears, something that shatters your serenity into 1,000 pieces. Frustration builds up, and before you know it, you're trapped in a cycle of repetitive thoughts, anxious feelings that won't go away, and a sense of hopelessness that eats away at any hope. It's familiar, isn't it? The weight of dealing with endless problems, the feeling of being unable to break free. But what if I told you that within that very chaos, there's a seed of growth? What if that enemy you see is actually a doorway to a path of deep transformation? I know what it's like because I've been there. I've faced challenges that seemed impossible to overcome. But I discovered a practice that didn't just bring me peace, taught me to see every difficulty as an opportunity to become stronger. This practice, inspired by the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, changed my life. And if you're ready to explore this path, I invite you to dive deep into this journey with me. You see, the pain of dealing with life's challenges often feels overwhelming because we view them as adversaries. We look at our struggles and ask, why me? Why now? We start to identify ourselves with the suffering, believing that these problems define us. This mindset becomes a trap, one where every new challenge only seems to confirm our inability to find peace. And that's how it spreads. One problem suddenly becomes many, spilling over into our relationships, our work, and even our sense of self-worth. The anxiety of dealing with one situation starts to taint every aspect of our lives. We carry this burden as if we're meant to shoulder it alone. It's like carrying a weight you didn't choose, yet you can't put down. The impact doesn't stop there. When we let these challenges rule our minds, they begin to influence how we see the world. Everything appears hostile or threatening, and it's hard to find joy or motivation. We become reactive, driven by fear rather than clarity. Our emotions become tangled up in knots of confusion and pain, and we start to lose sight of our true potential. The real tragedy is that this distorted view of ourselves makes it harder to find solutions, even when they're right in front of us. We're stuck in survival mode, unable to see beyond the immediate problem. That's where I was trapped, in a cycle of reacting, hurting, and struggling to find answers. It felt like every time I tried to solve one issue, another would appear. I was constantly putting out fires, never able to step back and breathe. That's when I came across a teaching that shifted everything for me. Paramahansa Yogananda words spoke to me in a way I hadn't expected. Calm your mind, and the answers you seek will rise from the quiet depths within. It felt like a key, unlocking a new way of looking at my struggles. For the first time, I realized that the problem wasn't the challenges themselves, but my chaotic mind that couldn't find its way through them. This realization became the beginning of a transformation. I started to see that when I approached each challenge not as a threat, but as a teacher, something shifted. I wasn't reacting anymore, I was observing. Instead of being a victim to my circumstances, I began to explore them. I found that through the practice of meditation, I could silence the noise, slow down the whirlwind of thoughts, and start listening to a quieter, more intuitive voice within. A voice that didn't shout in panic, but whispered in understanding. That was when everything changed. The challenges didn't disappear, they never do, but my relationship with them transformed. Suddenly, every problem became an invitation to grow, every fear became a test of strength, and every setback became a step forward. It was as if I was unlocking a hidden power I didn't know I had. And that power wasn't in fighting against the challenges, but in embracing them and letting them teach me what I needed to learn. When I first began exploring Yogananda's teachings, I discovered something that completely changed my perspective on challenges. He often spoke about the power of stillness, the idea that a calm mind could reveal solutions that a restless one never could. At first, I was skeptical. How could sitting in silence possibly help me deal with real-world problems? But I was desperate to break free from the loop of anxiety and self-doubt, so I gave it a try. What I found was astonishing. By practicing a simple form of meditation and focusing on my breath, I began to create a small space within myself, a sanctuary where I could step back from my worries and see things more clearly. In that space, I realized something profound. The chaotic thoughts that swarmed my mind were often worse than the problems themselves. The fear, the doubt, the constant replaying of what-if scenarios, these were the true sources of my suffering. It wasn't the external challenges, it was my internal reaction to them. Yogananda called this the restless mind, and said that calming it was the first step toward overcoming any difficulty. His technique of deep, conscious breathing and focused concentration felt like a lifeline, pulling me out of the storm of my thoughts and into a place of quiet power. As I continued with this practice, I noticed a subtle shift. Problems that once felt overwhelming began to lose their intensity. They were still there, but they no longer dictated my emotions. It was like seeing a storm through the window instead of being caught in the middle of it. And from this place of calm, I began to see the situations more objectively. The worries that once consumed me started to dissolve, and I could think clearly again. This clarity wasn't just intellectual, it was almost like a form of inner guidance, an intuitive knowing that I'd never experienced before. That's when I understood what Yogananda meant when he said, "Peace is the altar of solutions." It wasn't that the challenges disappeared, it was that I no longer saw them as threats. I saw them as opportunities to practice this newfound stillness and to approach them with the calm assurance that there was a solution waiting to be discovered. I wasn't running away or avoiding the issues. Instead, I was facing them with a sense of strength and resolve I didn't know I possessed. This inner peace wasn't passive, it was active, transformative. It gave me the energy to keep going, even when the challenges seemed relentless. In this state, something amazing began to happen. The solutions I needed would come to me, not in a flash of inspiration, but in a gentle unfolding. Ideas and insights that felt completely out of reach when I was anxious suddenly appeared. It was as if I'd unlocked a part of my mind that was more capable, more resourceful. And I realized that this was the power of meditation, not as a tool to escape problems, but as a way to transform how I related to them. It gave me a strength that wasn't about force, but about resilience. And with each practice, I felt myself growing stronger, more capable of handling whatever came my way. As I delved deeper into Yogananda's teachings, I found myself drawn to a specific practice that he emphasized. The technique of Kriya Yoga. Yogananda described it as the art of consciously controlling the life force, or prana, within us. At first, it sounded mystical and beyond my understanding, but the more I learned, the clearer it became. Kriya Yoga was a way to not only calm the mind but to shift the energy that fuels our emotions. This practice became the key that unlocked a deeper level of transformation for me. Through Kriya, I began to access a part of myself that was always calm, always steady, no matter what was happening around me. During the practice, I would focus on the breath moving through my spine, visualizing it as a flow of energy rising and falling with each inhale and exhale. This wasn't just a breathing exercise, it was a way to center my awareness and connect to something greater within. As I continued, I noticed a profound effect. The anxious energy that used to cloud my mind started to dissipate. It was as if, by guiding my breath, I was guiding my thoughts. I wasn't a victim to my mental storms anymore. Instead, I became a witness, calmly observing them from a place of power and tranquility. The power of Kriya Yoga isn't just in calming the mind, it's in harmonizing the body, mind, and spirit. By aligning these three, I found a sense of inner balance that was unshakable. When a new challenge arose, I no longer felt like I was being tossed around by a raging sea. I had an anchor. Kriya helped me harness an energy that was not reactive, but proactive. It allowed me to approach every difficulty from a place of strength and clarity. This technique didn't just help me manage stress, it helped me transform it into something that fueled my growth. It's hard to describe the exact moment I realized I was changing. Maybe it was when I faced a situation that would have normally overwhelmed me, but instead, I felt a calm presence within, guiding me through it. Or maybe it was when I looked back and noticed that the anxiety and self-doubt that once dominated my thoughts had faded into the background. But I knew it was real. The more I practiced Kriya Yoga, the more I experienced an inner shifter, quiet confidence that I could handle whatever life threw at me. The problems were still there, but my relationship with them had changed. This practice became more than just a technique, it became a way of life. I found myself returning to it every time a new challenge surfaced, and each time it brought me back to that place of stillness and strength. Yogananda's teachings showed me that this inner power isn't something extraordinary or reserved for a few. It's within each of us, waiting to be awakened. It's not about escaping reality, but embracing it with a clear mind and an open heart. And with every breath, every meditation, I felt myself tapping into that power, transforming every obstacle into an opportunity for self-mastery. One of the most profound insights I gained from Yogananda's teachings was that the source of every challenge and its solution lies within. It might sound, but when you experience it firsthand, it feels like an epiphany. I realized that the external problems I faced were reflections of something deeper happening inside me. Every fear, every doubt, every sense of inadequacy, there were projections of inner turmoil that I hadn't yet addressed. The practice of meditation, particularly through Kriya Yoga, brought these hidden aspects of myself to light. It was like shining a spotlight on the shadowed corners of my own mind. Yogananda described this process as a journey of self-discovery. way to unveil the layers of conditioning that cloud our true nature. And that's exactly what it felt like. As I sat in stillness, observing my breath and thoughts, I started to see patterns I'd never noticed before. I saw how my fear of failure was rooted in childhood experiences, how my need for control came from a place of insecurity. This wasn't always easy to face. There were moments when I wanted to quit, when the discomfort of looking so deeply within felt too much to bear. But Yogananda's teachings reminded me that growth often comes through discomfort. That transformation is born from confronting, not avoiding, what's inside us. This self-inquiry wasn't about judging myself or dwelling on the past. It was about understanding, seeing the root of my reactions and emotions with a compassionate yet discerning eye. Through this practice, I learned to recognize when I was slipping into old patterns of fear and resistance. And rather than letting these patterns control me, I used the calmness cultivated through meditation to dissolve them. Slowly, those inner barriers began to weaken. The fear, once an automatic response, became a choice one I no longer felt compelled to make. The more I practiced, the more I realized that I wasn't just solving problems. I was reshaping myself from the inside out. What I found most liberating was that, as these inner shifts occurred, the outer world seemed to shift as well. The situations that used to overwhelm me didn't change, but the way I interacted with them did. When I approached a challenge with a sense of inner peace, it felt as if the situation responded to that energy. Problems that once seemed insurmountable started to resolve themselves, or I would find myself guided to a solution that hadn't been apparent before. It was almost as if my outer world was a mirror, reflecting the changes happening within me. This realization gave me a sense of empowerment and hope that I'd never felt before. Yogananda often said, "Change yourself, and you will change thousands." At first, I thought it meant influencing others through our actions. But now, I see that it's about changing our inner landscape so profoundly that the energy we radiate shifts the world around us. The calmness and clarity I cultivated didn't just help me, it affected how others responded to me. Conflicts became less frequent, opportunities more abundant. And I realized that by transforming myself, I was subtly transforming everything and everyone I touched. It was a humbling yet powerful experience, one that deepened my commitment to this path of inner growth. As I continued this journey, I began to notice another profound shift, one that went beyond just handling challenges. I started to experience a deeper connection to my own inner wisdom, a guidance that seemed to come from a place beyond my ordinary thinking mind. Yogananda often spoke about the intuitive voice within, a quiet presence that knows the way forward, even when the path seems unclear. At first, I wasn't sure if I could trust it. Was it really intuition, or just another thought in the maze of my mind? But as I practiced more, I realized that this inner voice wasn't based on fear or doubt. It was calm, unwavering, and always pointed me toward growth. This intuitive guidance began to shape the way I approached everything in life, not just my problems. I stopped rushing to find quick fixes and started really listening to what this voice was telling me. And what I found was that the solutions it offered were often different from what I'd expected. They weren't about changing external circumstances, but about changing my internal state. For example, if I faced a conflict at work, my first instinct would be to assert my point of view. But the intuitive voice would suggest a different approach, one of patience, of understanding. And when I followed that guidance, the outcome was almost always better than if I'd acted out of impulse. This experience deepened my faith in something greater than myself, a kind of divine intelligence that Yogananda described as the silent witness of all our thoughts and actions. He taught that by tapping into this inner wisdom, we can transcend the limitations of our own minds and access solutions that are aligned with our highest good. It's not about escaping responsibility or waiting for miracles. It's about learning to quiet the mental noise so that we can hear the whisper of our soul guiding us to the right actions, the right decisions. And as I began to trust this process more, I felt a sense of flow return to my life. The beauty of this inner guidance is that it doesn't just provide solutions, it transforms how we perceive challenges altogether. Suddenly, obstacles that once seemed overwhelming become opportunities to practice this newfound wisdom. Every problem becomes a question. What is this here to teach me? How can I grow through this? And when we approach our challenges in this way, they lose their power to control us. They become stepping stones on the path to a greater understanding of ourselves and the world. We're no longer resisting life, we're embracing it. You have everything you need to start this journey of transformation within yourself. Think about it. What would change in your life if you faced each challenge with calmness and inner strength? How different would your relationships be if you listened to that inner wisdom instead of reacting impulsively? This is the key to lasting change, and it starts with a single moment of stillness. So why not give it a try? Meditate, reflect, and let the answers come from within. If this resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss out on more insights like this. Remember, the path to mastering life's challenges starts with mastering yourself. Are you ready to begin?